and that arbitration was established. The Venezuelans asked the Americans to name and provide 2 arbitrators, and at the end of the exercise, the arbitration panel of 5 under the Russian unanimously agreed to a border. Part of the propaganda and complete fabrication put out by Venezuela and its friends as regards the award ignores that completely and behaves as though somehow a good part of the arbitral award focused on the Esequibo. It did not. The Esequibo is a minor river compared to the Orinoco in so many different ways: its depth, its length, it's the oil that comes from it. And therefore, at that time, both the US and Venezuela were primarily interested in the Orinoco. The responses of Venezuela, including the brother of the president who was the ambassador to the UK, you will see how very pleased they were at the decision of the court. In fact, up to 1962, Venezuela enforced the borders with such inflexibility that the British and the Guyanese really complained about it. You have an agreement between Venezuela and the British, or on behalf of British Guyana, and then you recognize that the boundary of Guyana, British Guyana, Brazil, and Venezuela meet at some point, and that point is on Mount Roraima. So one of the boundary markers was placed there, and there was an agreement, a tri-junction agreement, between the 3 countries and the colony of British Guyana, and all maps after 1905 reflected that border. It arose in 1962, February 2nd, 1962, during the period when Venezuela was trying to prevent Guyana from being given its independence. In all the years subsequent to November of 1962, Venezuela has failed to submit any evidence whatsoever, any evidence that could stand up in a court of law using the internationally accepted rules of evidence. The youngest member of not of the arbitration panel, but of the teams working on the side of Venezuela and Britain was a man by the name of Severo Male Prevost, who was a Mexican by birth. Male alleged, it is said, that the British and the Russian chairman colluded to give or to threaten other members of the arbitration panel, and the other members of the arbitration panel were so weak and hopeless that they acceded to these demands and threats and awarded Britain what it wanted. Now, what is interesting and depressing, both about Venezuela's obsession with this claim and about the circumstances surrounding the claim, was that Male Prevost made that allegation, it is said, and I'll come back to that part, 1 month after he was awarded the highest civilian award by the Venezuelan government. This is the order of Simon Bolivar he got. Former president of Venezuela, Mr. Chavez, alleged that the Americans had pressed his predecessors into making the allegation in return for political favors. The agreement, may I hasten to add, nowhere does it make mention of the Esequibo. Nowhere does it make mention of the transfer of land from one country to the next. And nowhere does it say that any section of Guyana was temporarily under the control of Guyana. That when a country goes to the trouble of almost causing a war between not itself and us, but between two other countries, and then to name arbitrators, and having named arbitrators, embrace the decision of the arbitrators, for it to wake up one morning and say, oh, you know something, we think this agreement was a fraud. We're not going with it anymore. It is a breach of faith that is not easy to resolve. I don't think I need to say more to you on that. And therefore, the SG says this is a judicial matter, yes, but what I'm going to ask, as two neighbors, we are going to ask that you have one more round of dialogue, some more diplomatic effort for 1 year. Both sides agreed to that. President Maduro, President Granger were in the room. He undertook that this process would take 1 year. At the end of 1 year, he had gone no place because Venezuela had been given the names of 6 good officers who would help to facilitate the dialogue. And President Maduro rejected those names one after the other for over a year. One of the reasons why the court, I think, would recognize the urgency of this case in Guyana is that it poses a threat to peace in the region. This is a region that has committed itself to peace.